Today is Monday, November 23. My name is Pastor Anthony, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Today our text comes from Matthew 25, verses 24 through 30. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. "Master," he said, "I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid, and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you." His master replied, "You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed? Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." So, after the Sunday sermon yesterday, there were a few questions folks asked me that are worth following up on. Most of them had to do with the unfaithful servant at the parable's end. So that's our text today, where we'll take a deeper dive into the harder questions of the parable. We probably won't get to all of them, and I'm sure you'll still have some remaining. But hopefully it's helpful as a follow-up and a diving in. So one of those questions that came was about how the master is a hard man who harvests where he has not sown and gathers where he has not scattered seed. We hear that the servant is afraid of him for that reason, and that's why he went out and hid the gold in the ground. So the question is really about, so if this master is that kind of person that cheats others out of what rightfully belongs to them, why should the servant not treat him this way, burying his stuff in the ground? Well, the key, at least in the commentators that I've read, comes in that verse 24. The first words of the servant, where he says, "I knew that you are a hard man." As you hear the master reply in his rebuke of the servant just later, starting in verse 26, you hear the master repeat all those same words that the servant said, except for this one. The servant does not say, "You knew, did you, that I was a hard man?" No, he doesn't say that. He starts with, "You knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed." But he leaves that hard word out of it. Because the master didn't agree, apparently, with that assessment that he's a hard man. But he did agree with those other things. And those other things are not about the master being somebody that cheats others out of land or out of a harvest that rightfully belongs to him or any of those things. Rather, you need to hear it in the ears of the same ears that Jesus' own hearers would have listened to it with. In a world where the king or the emperor or even a lord or a noble over a certain bit of land had rights over his own estate, had sovereignty over the territory that belonged to him in the case of a king. And the king could ask indeed at any time for a harvest that he did not plant, if it came from a subject within his kingdom. That's the nature of the sovereignty of a king, and it's no overreach of power. It may certainly anger his subjects and lead to an uprising, but it is his sovereign right. And there's a similar thing here with the master in the parable. He is a wealthy landowner who has just that right over a certain bit of land to harvest what he has not sown and to gather what he has not scattered. And so the servant here is probably talking about the master's sovereignty. "I knew that you were sovereign over all things, that you have a lot of power to act and to do whatever you want. You are a man to be feared because of that power. And yet the servant misunderstands who the master is. He says, I knew that you were a hard man. But that, bringing it into our own world, is not the nature of our God. That just suggests that the servant didn't really know the master. Because the master, as we know him, is the God of love. This good Father, who, yes, has sovereignty over all he has made, which includes our lives and our world and everything within them. But he does not use that sovereignty to coerce us into following, or to coerce us into acting in certain ways. He is constantly inviting us to respond, investing in us, giving us gifts and grace and resources, and inviting us to live accordingly to it. But he's not demanding, he's not coercing, he's not the hard man that the servant took him to be. And so the whole thing turns on who the master is. And we know that the master is our gracious God who came to us in Christ to remind us and to reveal to us that everything in creation and redemption is ours in him. Won't we come a little further and invest all that we've been entrusted with back into his kingdom work? That's the invitation of the parable. So, I hope that's helpful. I hope you know then that the master is that good Father, not the hard man who demands our slavery, but a Father who invites our obedience. As you journey on, go with the blessing of God. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you, and may he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.